Hi everyone, I'm Kay of Kay's Creative Home. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to make this beautiful lemon and lime wreath that you can use indoors or outdoors. Be beautiful in your kitchen. And the things we're going to use are our wreath form, 4 different types of ribbon, coordinating ribbons, 3 rolls of Deco mesh, and then some lemons and lime for added decorations. So I've already started here. Oh, I'm sorry, you're going to also need some pipe cleaners or zip ties. So I've already started here by adding the securing the first layer of Deco mesh to the wreath form. And now I'm just taking 10-inch pieces and zip tying them in as little poofs. And you want to make sure that your ends are tucked in and that the poof is sitting up. I'll go back later and I'll fluff these out real good. And this is the base for my wreath. It's going to help keep the other things puffed out and looking nice and full. The Deco mesh I'm using is 10 inches wide and it is 10 yards long. Now because Deco mesh has been having some issues with being completely 10 yards long, I will do 10 inches for this one, and then there'll be enough to make another wreath. And the second wreath I'll probably do some 10-inch poofs and maybe a few 9-inch poofs just to make sure I have enough. Alright, I'm going to finish getting around this bottom layer and then I'm going to do the top layer. I've got 10 twisty ties there on the outer layer and I have 8 on the inner circle or inner layer of the wreath form. So on the back here I'm showing you the 2 zip ties I use to secure the cut edges of my mesh. Before you move on, stop and fluff these poofs out as much as possible so that the foundation of your wreath will be nice and full. So the next thing we're going to do is cut our mesh into 20-inch pieces. Now a 10-yard roll of mesh should give you exactly 18 pieces if you're cutting 20 inches. But again, of course, sometimes the mesh isn't exactly that length, or as you'll see here, I have to cut off some of the end to get it even. So we miss out on a few inches because of things like that. So what we need to do, or what I choose to do, is to cut all of my outer layer, those 10 pieces I need, I cut them at 20 inches. And then when I get to the inner pieces, since they're closer together, I need 8 of them. So I will cut 4 at 20 inches and 4 at 18 inches. So that will ensure that I have just enough to completely fill my wreath. And it'll ensure me that I have enough to complete my second wreath with the same rolls. So next I want to cut my ribbon into 12-inch strips. So I'm using a 12-inch ruler and I basically just wrap 2 at a time around the ruler. I think I'm going to start doing just 1 at a time because it's making some of the, you can see it gets so thick that it makes some of them a little longer than the others and kind of makes things a little quirky. So at any rate, you're going to need 9 pieces of your 2 ribbons if you're putting 2 into each zip tie. So 9 pieces of this one, and then I'll do 9 pieces of the other ribbon I chose to use. So after I've cut my dovetails in the end, I'll cut the other ribbon up and we'll be ready to move on to the next step. So our next step is to gather our Deco mesh and the ribbon and begin putting it onto our wreath. So what I do is lay out the mesh curl side, I guess you would say curl side down, and I fold under the first end and then I begin gathering straight down the center. And I like doing this on my cutting board, so I have these lines to help guide me. The mesh has a little bit of lines in it, but the board also helps me keep things straight. So when I get to the end, I kept that last piece tucked under also so that the frays aren't so visible. And then the next thing I'm going to do is add a piece of ribbon on top of that. So over there on the side, you can see I've already folded most of my ribbon, but you just fold it in half, find the center point, and then you're going to take it and gather it, put it right on top of your mesh, and then put it into one of your twisty ties. It's a little bulky. If you have problems doing that, just put your mesh in first, twist it in tight, and then put your ribbon on and twist that in tight. Just do it in 2 steps instead of 1. I also found that my my pipe cleaners were a little short. I had cut 12-inch pipe cleaners in half, and it causes a lot of stress on your hands to have to really twist and work things like that. So you'll see in future videos that I'm choosing to use the whole 12-inch pipe cleaner for each of my ties there. So I'm going to go through and you just do one by one. I'm alternating colors. So the first one is the yellow mesh, and it has the green ribbon with yellow lemons. The next one will be the green mesh, and it'll have yellow ribbon with the green limes. So I'm going to just alternate that all the way around my wreath, and then I'll be right back. Now here I started my inner circle, and how I choose which one I start with, as you can see where I have this green one right to the right here, right behind it is a yellow one, and that is where 2 of the pipe cleaners were close together. That's how I decide what to start with. I'll find 2 pipe cleaners close together on the outer and inner rings, and I'll put the opposite color on the inner ring, and that's where I start, and then I just go around that ring doing alternate colors. And eventually, because of how the spacing is, some things, you'll end up with a yellow close to a yellow, like the one I'm putting in here now. But for the most part, they alternate, the top and the bottom, and then the side by side. If you're enjoying the video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share with others. This would really, really, really help me to grow my channel, and I thank you in advance. I appreciate it. And now we're going to move on to the next step. Alright, our next step is to make our bow, and I'm sorry I lost a little bit of footage there for the first 2 ribbons I put down. I am using 6-inch tails and 6-inch loops, and I just measure them out right there on the bow maker. I tend to make my bows with the darker color in the background, and that'll help to hopefully separate it a little bit from the wreath itself. You can actually see the bow. And then I try to end the top of my bow with something really colorful and dramatic, because that's the first thing your eyes will see. So I'm going to put in this lime ribbon. I think this is so pretty. It is a Sam's Club ribbon, because the light green in this ribbon kind of has a fluorescent effect. So when the light hit it, it's really, really pretty. So the next thing I do is just to shape the ribbon up. I shape the bow up a little bit before I even take it off of my bow maker, to try to get everything visible. And then I'm going to put a zip tie around the center and lift it up off of the bow maker, slide a pipe cleaner in the back, so that I'll use the pipe cleaner to attach the bow to my wreath. Alright, let's get that done, and then we're going to be ready to move to the next step. So the next step is to decide where you want your bow to go. Take into consideration where the top of your wreath will be, and where you'll place your hanger, and then decide where you want your bow to go. Mine usually goes at about 9 o'clock. And so I'm going to insert the pipe cleaners down through the wreath, catch it on the other side and tighten it, twist it together, tucking in those ends so the end of the pipe cleaners don't scratch your door, and making sure that you don't pull the bow into the wreath and cause it to kind of scrunch up in between the mesh. You want it to sit right on top of the mesh, and then you just take some time to fluff it up again, making everything nice and full and pretty. And then we're going to move on to the next step. So I've decided to add some lemons and lime onto the wreath for decoration, and I have there in my hand an old floral stems. I used that to just poke a hole through the end of my lime there, and then I slid some wire through that opening. So I'm going to do that for all of my limes and lemons there. I have 6 total, and then I'm going to show you how I added them onto the wreath. So after I got the wire into each piece of fruit there, I just decided where I wanted to place them. So I'm actually just sitting them in with the wire sticking up. And I alternated lime, lemon, tried to make sure some are around the outer edges and some are toward the center or the top. And just placed them where I want them to be. And then the next thing I'm going to do is flip them over and one by one feed the wire through the wreath and catch it on the other side. Once the wire comes through on the other side, I just take the very ends of the wire and twist them together to kind of hold things in place. I have not pulled the wire all the way through yet because I want to still get them all just situated and kind of see how things look. And then I'm going to go back and make them more secure. So now that I have everything where I want it, I'm going to go back, add a little bit of glue to the bottom of each piece of fruit, and then secure it snugly into my wreath, making sure that the fruit is not only where I want it to be, making sure that also the ribbon is where I want it to be, because you don't want to glue it down to the ribbon and then find that your ribbon is twisted or turned in an awkward manner. So some of the fruit I did with just the tip of it standing out, and some of it I did so that it was actually kind of laying to the side so you would see more of the fruit. So I'm going to get all of these secured and I'll be right back. Now that the lemons and limes are glued in place, my next step was to pull the wires snugly all the way through the wreath for each piece of fruit, and to twist it tightly now in place so it's just doubly secured. And once I got that wire twisted, I snipped off all the extra ends that I didn't need. I wrapped the wire around the frame of the wreath so that it would be just really secure, and that the ends of the wires would get tucked in so that they won't scratch your door. So we're going to fluff up this wreath a little bit more, and then we're going to share some pictures with you of how it would look on the front door or even hang it in your kitchen. Please be so kind as to join the family if you like to get notifications about future videos. And don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share with others. I thank you for spending this time with me, and I'll be talking with you again real soon.